These two people took the life of a 16-year-old girl. Oh, hi there, stranger. Today I'm going to be telling you about the very sad case of Brianna Ghey. Viewer discretion, as always, is advised. Brianna Ghey was born on the 19th of August 2006 in Cheshire. She was a teenager with an undeniable sense of self and a strong presence in her local community. From an early age, Brianna knew that she was different. She began expressing herself as a girl around age 13, transitioning through a process that would shape her life. Brianna was open about being transgender and she took pride in her identity. She built a platform online and used that platform to express herself and share her experiences around issues surrounding being trans and her journey and all of the challenges that came with it. She had a strong bond with her mother, who was very supportive of her transition, and she had a good group of friends who described Brianna as fun-loving, carefree, and I suppose many typical teenage girls. She had a real love for fashion, makeup and beauty, and she shared these things on her platforms online and also her thoughts on gender identity. She was a brave young girl who advocated for herself and for others. Scarlett Jenkinson was another local teenage girl. She had recently been transferred to Brianna's school because at her old school she had taken in edibles and handed them out to the other children. This had caused some sickness and even the hospitalisation of one child. This was considered a spiking, but because Scarlett had previous good character, instead of permanent exclusion, she was transferred. Scarlett and Brianna had become friendly and hung out a couple of times. It wasn't a massively close relationship, but they knew each other and got along. What Brianna was not to know was that Scarlett had developed an obsession and a fascination with her. Scarlett was friends with a boy called Eddie Ratcliffe, and she would text Eddie all about her obsession with Brianna. And Brianna wasn't the only thing that Scarlett spoke to Eddie about. She would consistently send messages expressing her desire to commit violence and take lives. And then in the days leading up to the event in question, things became very tense between Brianna and Scarlett, and it's believed that there was some kind of falling out, although there aren't any details on this. But even with the rising tension between the two young ladies, they decided to go out for the day together on the 11th of February 2023. So Scarlett texts Brianna to jump on a bus and she would meet her off the bus, and then they were going to go to Colchester Linear Park with Scarlett's friend Eddie. Scarlett had told Brianna that she was going to get some substances and that she wanted to take them together. But Scarlett was texting herself, pretending to be the guy that she was supposed to be meeting to collect these substances from. And Brianna, she picked up on this. And so she texted Scarlett and said, "I'm going to wait for you here. I'm feeling anxious." And then she texted another friend and said, "Scarlett is acting really weird. I think she's pretending to have a dealer." And I mentioned that because it seems as though that is how Scarlett lured Brianna to that location. That's why they were there. So Brianna, Scarlett and Eddie are walking through this park. They were seen by eyewitnesses and they walked up to an area believed to have been chosen by Scarlett. And shortly after they arrived to that location, not long after those messages were sent, for reasons unknown, Brianna was attacked brutally. The violence was sudden and unexpected, and Brianna was stabbed multiple times in a frenzied attack. But Scarlett and Eddie were seen by a couple that were walking their dog, and they noticed the couple noticing them, and they fled the scene. That couple discovered Brianna face down on the grass at 3:13 and called emergency services. But tragically, Brianna's wounds were too severe for her to overcome, and she was pronounced deceased at the scene at 4:02. Scarlett Jenkinson and Eddie Ratcliffe were arrested the next day, and the investigation soon uncovered the many text messages between the two, which were damning enough evidence, but there was something else. You see, stranger, Scarlett had already tried to take Brianna's life once, unsuccessfully. She had poisoned Brianna with ibuprofen tablets, believing that it would be classed as a self-harming situation due to Brianna's mental health. So essentially, she wanted to take Brianna's life and make it look like Brianna had done it. They also uncovered Scarlett's fascination with serial killers. She had favourites and she would write little notes about them in her diaries. But the text messages exchanged between Scarlett and Eddie, where they spoke of Brianna, were probably the most disturbing. Or at least in my opinion, that is. You see, Scarlett, of course, had told Eddie all about Brianna and her obsession with Brianna. She said she was really pretty and really different, and she'd told Eddie, everything she knew about Brianna. And Eddie was obviously a hateful little boy. When speaking of Brianna to Scarlett, Eddie had said that he wanted to, quote, see if it screams like a man or a girl. Due to these many factors, and plus, of course, the severity of the attack and the fact that it didn't seem to be spur of the moment, the investigators concluded that this was probably premeditated, and Scarlett Jenkinson and Eddie Ratcliffe were charged with murder. Each blamed the other, with Eddie saying that Scarlett had stabbed Brianna and Scarlett saying that it was Eddie that had taken Brianna's life. And in a trial that lasted 3 weeks, it was uncovered that Eddie Ratcliffe had brought the hunting knife to the park, the weapon that had taken Brianna's life, but that they had both been talking about it. Eddie said he took the knife to the park after Scarlett had said she had a plan to stab Brianna, but he said he didn't take Scarlett seriously because she was always talking about murder, but nothing ever happened. Jenkinson claimed that although she had lured Brianna to the park and she had said those things to Eddie, that it was all part of a fantasy, and that when he actually took Brianna's life, that she was shocked. What did become clear was that regardless of who had carried out the act of taking Brianna's life, both teenagers had been planning this for some time. This was premeditated. The jury deliberated for 4 hours and 40 minutes and found both Scarlett Jenkinson and Eddie Ratcliffe guilty of murder. And on the 2nd of February 2024, both Scarlett and Eddie were given life sentences. Scarlett had a minimum term of 22 years and Eddie a minimum term of 20 years. There are mixed reports on Scarlett's age at the time of the murder. She was either 15 or 16 and Eddie was 15. And whilst authorities rushed to tell the public that this was not a hate crime, no true motive has ever been given. Rest in peace to the beautiful Brianna Ghey, who above all else was a human being. What a sad and terrible case. My heart really goes out to Brianna's family and friends. And please, as ever, stranger, let me know what you think of this one in the comments. Does the sentence fit the crime? And of course, if you stayed with me up until now, then thank you for watching, and I will see you for the next one.